write about. Trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist. Am I worth anything or just a scout? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
That was great. Sounds Watts with Outside on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Preston, with my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City Made, Mr. Easy Blues. Easy Blues, you are always better with introductions more than me. Who do we have with us on the broadcast today?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to jump in the Wayback Machine one more time. We're going to easily jump in that DeLorean, throw it at 88 miles an hour. We're going to go back in time. There I was standing at the door of the incredible State House, and in walks this incredible human being that started talking to me right from jump, that really understood what art was and how things could go. Then I got to see the performance. And I got to see this person beat the stage like it had owed them money, and I loved every second of it. For that and that alone, I want you to put your hands together, not if you're driving. If you're driving, please keep your hands at 10 and 2 because we don't need any accidents. But mentally, put your hands together for the fantastic, the amazing, the stupendous, the phantasmagorical Brook Pridemore in the building.
Hi. How's it going?
It's going great.
It's going well. Now, for those
did we meet at the State House last year?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
I was the door guy.
Oh, right. Yes.
I actually have the State House stamp tattooed on my hand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That place closed not long after that show, right?
Yep, not long after that show did it close. And I remember because one of the coolest things is you actually came up to me at the there and was like, "Yo, just keep an eye. Chesky might be showing up." I was like, "Well, Chesky's just on tour." He's like, and you're like, "No, they might be flying in. You never quite know what's going on. All I know is that when I play, if Chesky's around, he's going to be here." And then what I loved about it is he walked in with his hood up so no one could recognize him, and so that the focus was on you and your set and the other musicians' sets that were out there. And that was one of the coolest moments that I of the State House that I believe.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that part. Yeah, that's a lot. To date, that's the last time I've seen the homie. Although I was just thinking yesterday it'd be funny to just call him now that No Effects tour is over. He might be a little more available, but
right.
But yeah, that's cool. That was a really cool tour, and that was a really cool show because like every night of that tour was like a double headliner.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that night in particular was like, it was Troll 2 was on the bill as well. And so it was Troll 2 and Folk Punk Dad on the bill. And it was like, everybody ran circles around each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were all just leapfrogging over each other. And I kind of didn't really know till last year, like how much fun that is to to just be like out with a bunch of people and go, all right, like get your muscles on, like get your muscles on because we're doing push-ups. And to have the sound of the four acts be so different. I mean, my thing now that I'm doing is like so far removed from like the acoustic guitar guy thing that it was like such a nice mix every night.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm glad that's where we met.
That's definitely where we met. And then from that point on, we've had Milk Street on the show. You now have a split EP or split single with Milk Street that's available. What is it like being able to go, because you, like you said, you are so far removed from the acoustic singer-songwriter aspect of things, that it's a great clash. What was it like to have that clash with a group now that is almost falls into that singer-songwriter aspect?
Well, that the Milk Street, like, there's not really a stylistic clash for me. Like our single, I'm like, I've never heard like a quadruple A side before. Like there's no like chaff on that record,
Right.
And we met on that tour last year when I was out with Rent Strike, and the conflict is not really a conflict. It's like the drummer was 17 when I met them, and that's really funny. Like, because I turned 45 in June, and it's
Right.
like I don't go seeking out teenaged bands to play with, you
No.
know, like I don't seek that stuff out, but we find each other, and so we found each other and partnership that worked, and we've done 2 little weekender tours together this year. And it's what's really funny is, yeah, I don't party. I
Right.
don't a long kind of for a long time now. Like, I don't drink alcohol, any of that stuff.
Nothing
And
wrong with that.
and thank you. And they're like just at the age where it's like, when I look at people who are like supposed to be smoking pot every day, like that's who they are when you're like
Right.
24,
Right.
18 to 26, like you're really supposed to be smoking doink, and they do, but it's never out of control. It's just,
Right.
they just like get high. And
Right.
so it's like, it's funny for me. And then we're in these conversations where it's like somehow the subject of cigarettes. I was talking to one of them the other day, Jonah, and the subject of cigarettes came up, and I was like, I haven't smoked a cigarette in 13 years. And then I was like, I haven't smoked a cigarette since Harry was in kindergarten. And it was just one of those like, wow, that it's like, I didn't really know my life was going to take me to this place
Right.
where I've got friends that are like super old, and I've got, I have a friend who knew Phil Oakes,
Right.
and I have friends that were born after 9/11. Like, I don't
Right.
know why 9/11 is always the thing, but I always make that. Like, they don't even have that frame of reference. And so like,
Right.
I've got this big, wide, broad life to be a part of, like this big my world is a wide swath of people. It's a big footprint, and I really appreciate that. But stylistically, I mean, they're more like a pop punk band. I mean, I sort of think of them as like, if like the front bottoms like weren't mid,
Right.
like they were, that's what they sound like, Milk Street, and so like I took to them right away. And like, if you listen to the content of the songs, it's like, one of my songs is one of the songs on my side is a cover, but it's a cover about, somebody who's like still in love with somebody, but they know they're never going to take them seriously. So it's like,
Right.
Send text messages till your eyes fall out, and like, I'm not worried about you. And it's like a kiss off song, which their song Patchouli Snail Trail is like that too. Like, it's the same deal. And so I've always been like, my thing with style, and it goes back to my like my friendship with Chesky, and like, and I've always presented as a solo act, like I've very rarely had bands, and I've only recently realized I really don't want to be in a band. I don't want to start a band. I don't want to have a band so we can practice and we can our 10 songs perfectly. I don't want to know the set. I want to live like on a tightrope between the Twin Towers, like
Right.
that movie. Like, I want to be up there in the sky. And if I fall, like I'm crashing down, but it's this amazing thing that I got away with, even if I do fall.
Right.
And so, I play with rapper. I toured with Miles Bullen earlier this year in England, and I've last night my show in Rochester, the band that played after me was like, they were like a thrash black death metal band, and
Nice.
and like, and it's those, one of my big metal phase is kind of behind me now, but like, what I loved about metal is like, those guys, you go to a metal show and all the drummers are standing there going like this on a pad, making sure they can play the song, and these,
Right.
and these guys were very much those kind of guys that like they know how to play these sick riffs, but like they couldn't play every rose has its thorn,
Right.
like they
Right.
couldn't play, you know, all the small things or something. Like they couldn't play something. The first thing
Right.
you learn on a guitar, they just don't know how to do it, So
Yep.
it's like the trade is you put in all this practice for this one specialized thing that like a handful of people love, but it's a whirlwind. It's awesome. So
Right.
and that's what I really like about touring and playing music is like as I go, no, like I had to learn when I started touring again in 2015 to say to people like I don't really want to play a folk punk show every night.
Right.
I don't want to be the best singer guitar player of 5 people playing guitar and singing
Right.
about debauchery or whatever. So I had to start going like, do you know any good doom metal bands? Do you know any good juggalo rappers? Do you know
Right.
is there a harsh noise scene? I can do my thing in the middle of that. And it took some convincing to get people to take me seriously, to put me solo on really diverse bills. But like I like watching really strange bills.
Right.
And that's just my thing. So there Mill Street and I don't sound exactly alike, but how boring would a record be if the bands sounded exactly alike?
Yeah,
Like,
see, no, I think it would be massively boring, and that's what I love and respect about the record, which is really, 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 really good. I love how you say it's like 4 A-sides because it really
yeah,
is. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting right here. I've been saying it for a while.
yeah,
This
appreciate
is
that.
just who I am as a human. Um, Now you're also did you recently play with or you're about to play with Coventry Carols, Egg and Human Fund?
I think that's a week from today on the 20th in Clifton.
Yeah, that's
Uh, uh,
at Clinton.
Clinton, excuse me. Clifton
Yeah,
is in New Jersey. Scottish
right.
Dave's is in Clinton. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Have you been at Scottish Days yet?
yeah, I played there last summer.
Nice.
Uh, I had no idea. This guy walks up and goes, "I'm Scottish Dave." I'm like, you're kidding. Like there never is one, you
Yep.
know. The that was one of the best. Well, yeah, that's a cool little bar. And I like a Scotland themed anything. I was in Hog Heaven in Scotland earlier this year. I love it up there.
Well, I think that's where we're going to be doing our release. So maybe we'll hit you up in January. You can come back out there for that because
I'll
you
do it.
you you and Shane Penguin need to have something going on. We've done Milk Street 2 times when they came out to New Haven. We'd love to do something along those lines as well. But that's not really what this
Cool.
is about. This is about you, and about where the career's going now. You're starting a new project, new writing. From what I've been noticing from your social media.
Well, I write a song a day, and I've been doing that since July of 2023.
Wow.
And I post that every day to my Patreon. So
Mhm.
for a $5 a month subscription, listeners can hear a song every day. Now, for example, I'm on this tour and I'll probably record 3 songs tonight.
Right.
Because I've been writing them, but I'm in people's houses. I don't have time to record, or I'm in the van with another band. I don't have time to write and record. So I've done a couple tours where I've gotten home and I've written and recorded 12 songs, like then just dumped them all, 12 new posts, or I've recorded the 12 songs I wrote while I was out of town.
Right.
But I do keep up with the practice every day. And I've been mining that. I'm in kind of an interesting position because my new record is called Glad to Be Alive. I've been slowly working on the next record um, for about the last year. And I have realized, so Glad to Be Alive came out in 2022. 13 of those 15 songs I wrote in like March to May of 2020. So like in the real lockdown, don't go
Right.
outside, protest months of 2020. And I, in those months, like I was strapping a knife the first couple weeks when I walked outside,
Oh,
because
wow.
I live in Brooklyn. I live right
Mm.
in the heart of, I live among lots of people, so it's not quiet outside. Um, and to go outside and it's like dead silent everywhere you go, except the helicopters going overhead, is just like, is not a scene I'm really used to being a part of. So I was strapping a knife going out to take a walk, and I'm coming home and like pretty routinely sitting bolt upright in bed at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I've got to go out to my living room and write this song so I can go to sleep. And I did that, happened about 13 times. And, but the thing was, I was already working on another record. I had already recorded most of another record. And, I like, there's some songs on it I really like, and I wasn't happy with the record. I wasn't happy with the record. And like I brought Mikey Erg to play drums on it. I brought Jay Nixon, who was in the bands like Hunchback and Black Wine. He's like a Jersey guy. I brought them in to play bass and drums. And early 2020, I write all these songs in the midst of this like pandemic misery and paranoia. And I realized, at the same time, my friend Ben, who's in a band called Bodega, hit me up and said, hey, we can't tour, you can't tour, why don't you come over and we'll record an album? And he convinced me to pull the first and last songs from the album I had already recorded and re-recorded them for Glad to Be Alive. So Glad to Be Alive and Charlie Watts were already recorded for that other album. And we recorded this record, and immediately I was like, this is the record that's supposed to come out. The other record is what it is. And so I scrapped it, and I released Glad to Be Alive, and I've been touring Glad to Be Alive now for 2 years, and been kind of like, Ben was not a producer. He was just like, I just bought a 2-channel interface. Let me record you so I can learn how to be a producer. So he learned, and it was my 7th record, and it was my first time really working with someone who is not a studio guy. And I had always worked with these studio guys before. And my 6th record was a little less intense, but I had always worked with these guys that, aside from being good at sound capture, are really gatekeepy about how they're doing it. And so it's like, no, I can't let you see what I'm doing, because you'll learn and then you won't need me anymore. And so it was always this mystery. But Ben just had his computer and a 2-channel interface, that like Scarlett, the little tiny box. We did the whole record on that. And and a SM7B, and I have a keyboard called an OP1 that's a beat machine and a keyboard and a sampler. And so I bought a couple other drum machines. I bought my own interface at SM7B, and I just like started, and I got into GarageBand, and I got so far in GarageBand in like a year that I needed to upgrade to Logic, and now I use Logic. So I just started making this record myself. But I got to this point where it's like, I want to honor some of the songs on the record I had already made.
Hopefully you can on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Preston, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City Made, Mr. Easy BlueZ. Brooke, my apologies. Go right ahead.
I had gotten to I upgraded the Logic, and then I'm in this position where I wanted to I want to honor the songs that were already recorded that are now 5-6 years old. And I also am doing this new project with the Song a Day thing, where there are songs that are more immediate and now in my opinion better, because they're coming from where I am now. so I want to record all of these songs, not all of the song a day thing, but I want to honor the old stuff that's not out yet, and I want to honor the new stuff that I'm more excited about. So I'm doing this very careful cherry picking of the two different projects, and it's probably so I think I kind of decided, last month I was in the Northwest and I got to go to Aberdeen, Washington. I got to go see Aberdeen, and if you've never been, like, it's you ride into town and it's Washington itself is the greenest, most lush place you've ever seen. And you ride into Aberdeen and it's like somehow the most green, lush place, and it's also the most depressing place you've ever been. Like there's some way that it's depressing. And there's the Kurt Cobain bridge, the bridge that he sang about is like a local monument now. It's like the Kurt Memorial Park. And so like I go so I can say I've been underneath the bridge, and I got there and there was this one guy sitting there by himself doing drugs, and like, I took a selfie on the muddy bank of the Wishkah, and like I kind of joke that the working title for my next record is From the Muddy Banks of the Wishkah, like that Nirvana live record. And kind of the way I work is there's a working title for every record that I don't actually use. Like Glad to Be Alive, the working title was Nebraska. And Metal Is My Only Friend was the working title, but it was like the working title was like Some Days I Feel Like Metal Is My Only Friend. And then it's like the working title for the record before was New Standards, and there's always like a thing. So I think I just decided that the actual title for the proper record I'm making is Only I Can Prevent Forest Fires. And
yes.
And then but I've got all these songs. And like from that record that I scrapped, like one of the songs has been rewritten and is already recorded, and one of the songs is the song Get Inside on the Milk Street split that I rebuilt with the keyboards around it, and then Mike and Jay, the drums and bass on the chorus are Mikey Erg and Jay Nixon. And so I think there's going to kind of be the proper record is Only I Can Prevent Forest Fires. And then there's like I released a sort of companion record with Glad to Be Alive that was titled Nebraska. And it was all the voice memo demos I had recorded in the middle of the night.
That's awesome.
I just put them on a tape, and the first 100 records got that too. And I'm thinking now that like I'll do that tape thing again, but maybe I'll do like 250 of them, and the ancillary album will be like 12 to 13 songs that I've recorded, like from the Song a Day series and like from the album that I scrapped. So they're not like on the proper album that I'm pushing, but people can hear like where people can hear that stuff. It's available. Like there's a glut of material right now for me to go through. And now I would understand, I grew up listening to the Bob Dylan bootleg series, the first three. And I was like, how could he leave aside Mama, You've Been on My Mind, or, Blind Willie McTell? And I'm like, well, I absolutely know how you can leave that stuff behind, because it doesn't fit on the record. Like whether or not it's the best song he ever wrote, it doesn't fit on the record. So it just doesn't work. So I'm in that position right now, and it's fun and it's kind of odd. And, I'm not on anybody's clock. So I can do whatever I want. And that song Get Inside on the Milk Street split, it has the same chorus as the song If You Want to Die on Glad to Be Alive. They're just two different songs. and I wrote them at different times. I actually wrote If You Want to Die first, but
Right.
changed it to the more upbeat song. And it's like, I can do whatever I want. I can have 3 songs with the same chorus. I can call my next album Get a Grip by Aerosmith if I want. What's going to happen? Aerosmith's going to sue me. That's
Right.
cool. Get to meet Aerosmith. I love Aerosmith, like that would be a win-win for me.
Well,
Even if I lost all my money.
Right. Well, no, those are the chances that we're not taking. Like, as artists, we need to continue to push that envelope and to continue to push through. I still remember, when Blues Traveler released Hook, and it's really just a song about how I don't have to write anything prolific to get you to sing along to.
Right.
And it wound up being a top 10 hit for no apparent reason.
Right. Well, because it's a great hook. That's the reason.
Yeah.
All of my earlier records, when I was kind of working by committee, even though my name was on it, I was on a small label, and I was working with other people, like the people playing the other instruments. I'd really have them be a real part of the creative process in the studio.
Right.
And then I'm also working with the engineer who has it has to sound a certain quality for him, or it has to have a certain sound for his taste to keep his reputation in line. And I oftentimes in those years I would express an idea, and somebody would say, no, that's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'd have to fight with with a record that had my name on it to get what I believed was the right move on the record.
Right.
And I should not have to do that.
No.
I should not have to say, I'm going to, whatever it is. I can't even think of any examples. And it's, 15 years ago now, all of it. So, I've found this, working with just this other guy on Glad to Be Alive, and, Metal Is My Only Friend, I recorded after like a 6-year hiatus from recording, and I hadn't been on tour for 5. I opened the Broken Bone Ballads record release party at Toad's Place, and that was the end of my first tour since 2010. I took 5 years off.
Right.
And then I was like, all right, I'm going to do this Pat tour, because that's going to be a success. So, I had this break in time when I wasn't on tour, and then I started again. And so when I got to, and I got to really decide, like, what do I want? What are the bare minimum things that I want out of shows, out of a recording career? And a big one, when I went to record Metal Is My Only Friend, is I don't want to listen to someone whose name is not on the cover of the record say that's a bad idea.
Right.
Like, or you can say that's a bad idea, but not that it's a stupid idea.
Right.
And not that we can't try that because no one will like that. Like, that's not the way it works. And so I discovered in doing Metal Is My Only Friend that I worked very well with this producer. And then he ran away to Canada in 2020. That's why we didn't finish that record together. So he's still up in Canada. So I worked with Ben, and I can do this with another person. And then watching Ben, I'm like, I can do this myself. It's no problem. And I don't like being alone, but so I'm bringing in all these other people. Most of the electric guitars on this next record are played by other people. I'm like, can you put some bass on this for me? Or, we're going to do, I sing in front of a jam band once in a while, and we're going to, like, 3 of the songs are going to be me in front of the jam band. So I'm also really making this, I don't know what you guys' first favorite bands were, but like mine were They Might Be Giants. They Might Be Giants first, and then the Dead Milkmen next, and then kind of quick after that, I got into Ween. And so there you've got there's like the I guess those three bands and Insane Clown Posse are probably like the Mount Rushmore of like what started me being this. And all four of those groups, there's more than one person that takes a lead vocal. They all have, ICP doesn't really have a disparate sound, but they might be giants hop from genre. They were an alternative rock band that could do polka, and the same thing with Ween. They can go from country to funk to speed metal, and like that's the way I think records should be. I don't want to play, last night that metal band was like, it's kind of cool to be on a bill where it's not just chugga 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 for 4 hours. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. Like, and it's like that with every style of music where it's like, like I used to go to shows so I could see, even as recently as like 2019, I'd go to a 5-band show, sometimes at a big venue, and I'd see all 5 bands so I could know what 5 bands sounded like. So I'd go, well, we went Saturday night, we went and saw The Body, and they were great, but Lingua Ignota was act number 2 on the bill. And Lingua Ignota is like, I was like, it's the most frightening thing I've ever seen. Like this tiny little woman screaming about her trauma in the dark in St. Vitus, and like, and she doesn't sound anything like The Body, who are a metal band, but they don't sound anything like Full of Hell. And the Full of Hell doesn't sound anything like Primitive Man. And that's just in metal. Like everybody's got their own style. And like that stuff is really meaningful. There's like lots of different schools of making music. And one of them is that, like, I always think of it as like Spirit of 82 style music, where it's like you go to a hardcore show and it's like, it's called, they're like, they've got all these names and the shirts all look exactly the same and they all play for 15 minutes and it's like they all sound exactly alike. And I'm stoked to see it because I don't get to see hardcore that often. But by the end of a 75-minute 5-band show, I'm completely burned out. I'm completely burned out on the style. And then you've got people that's all the music that they want to listen to. And you've got that within every genre. There's a folk scene in New York. It's kind of waned a little bit now, but there was a long time where there were these really popular artists and they were like, people would be like, that guy does Dylan better than Dylan. Like he just knows Dylan songs, but I don't want to hear a Bob Dylan cover. I don't want to hear a Bob Dylan cover by a guy with a good voice. I want to hear a Bob Dylan cover by, somebody that's just fallen down a flight of stairs, and it's like, and is like crying and trying to play piano and like they miss every note and like all this thing. I want to see something I haven't seen before. And
understandable.
No, that's one of the key things, and serious. The way that I've always looked at it as well is you always want to see something you've never seen before, something that sparks interest. I'm now helping instruct some youth and stuff, learning how to sing and giving them vocal lessons. And I tell them all the time, I know how so and so has sung this song. I don't care how so and so has sung this song. I want to know how you sing this song. I want this to be your song by the end. By the time we're done working with each other, this is going to be your song, and you're going to rock it out the way you want to rock it out, and really push that type of limit. I get a little bit of pushback from that from a lot of people who are like, "You just need to teach them what's on the record." I'm like, no, I don't. I need to teach them what's beyond the record. I need to teach them what's continuously looking to grow and build. You had such an adventurous career. You take chances. You're living and breathing your art every single day, which I just think I want to give you your flowers for, because it's something that it's something that I aspire to. Yes, I do it to a limit, but still I have other responsibilities that I have to be in the real world and deal with the real world nonsense type of aspects. I know that you do as well, because again, I follow you on social media and I pay attention. We don't
Trust
stalk
me.
you or anything.
trust me, some of my some days living and breathing my art means working a 12-hour shift and then coming home and playing Tears of the Kingdom until I pass out. Like I like, but I really appreciate where you're coming from, and thank you. And I want to go back to what you were saying about teaching people how to sing their version of the song. Do
Right.
you know the Langley School's Music Project? Do you know that record?
Yeah, of course I do.
The version of Desperado on that record.
Mm-hmm.
Desperado is a song I never need to hear Desperado again. And
Right.
it's like the 10th Eagles song from the top of the
Right.
list of Eagles songs I never need to hear again. But
Mm-hmm.
that like 9-year-old girl singing Desperado, like she doesn't know what that song is about. She just
Nope.
knows it's a sad song. And she
Mm-hmm.
sings it from this place of I just have to sing this sad song.
Right.
And it's so like in terms of like being an interpreter, like it's this wonderful interpretation of this. There's nothing wrong with that song. I just
Right.
don't need to hear it anymore, you know.
Well, it's because you've
Right.
heard the stereotypical aspect of it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You've heard the cut and dry, and and again, we don't pour salt in anyone else's hustle. If you were in a cover band and you play that song note for note, you're doing what you got to do to create that type of art. Go do what you got to do. It's just not for me. It's not for Brooke. You got to push the envelope. You got to continue to grow. You got to continue to have Kafka's metamorphosis.
And I actually really appreciate a good cover band. When
Mm-hmm.
I bartended an event last year, and the it was like a company party, and they hired a band called, I'm not kidding, the Red Hot Chili Peppers
That's
to
wild.
play this this company event. And the other three guys were just like guys, they could play their instruments really well. And then the singer, like his life is devoted to being Anthony Kiedis.
Ugh.
Like he like looked and moved just like Anthony Kiedis. It was I was even because I was all the way in the back of the room, so I could only kind of see him. But he even had the effects, where he was like looking up at the mic, that thing that
Yeah.
Kiedis does, and all this stuff. And it's an ability that I don't have.
Right.
I can't sing. A, I can't sing a record version of any tune.
Right.
It's going to sound like I'm singing it. And that's a good thing because the record is a postcard. The record is just how that was captured in the moment, ideally. The Harry
Right.
Smith anthology is not the definitive version of those songs. It's
Right.
it's how it was captured at that time by Harry Smith. And there is often one of the things I have experienced is often a prejudice against your own version of something, or doing it with just the slightest twist on it. And
Mhm.
I have no energy for it, no time for
Right.
it.
I got some
So
time on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Preston, and Mr. Easy Blues. Go ahead, Easy. Very sorry.
no. It's actually I was saying so time is starting to wind down upon us, and I wanted to give you the opportunity. What do you like doing more? Because considering you're doing this song a day type of aspect, do you like the writing process more, the performing process more, the recording process more? You're delving into the art in many different forms. Which one is the truest Brook Pridemore?
Well, what's funny is the writing process in doing this thing every day has been demystified for me.
Mm-hmm.
Would I used to go through some really bad periods of like, I can't write any songs. I'm bashing myself in the head with a frying pan because I can't write any songs. I'm sitting down and trying to write these songs and I'm just coming up with garbage. And then one day I would go, like, it was like, it's like, it would like, it would feel like a fart where it would just be like, and there'd be like 3 right there.
Right.
And so when I decided last year to just start writing songs, there was no end date for it. And it was just, let's just see if I can do it. People talk about certain artists. Oh, so and so, Dolly Parton wrote 9 to 5 and I Will Always Love You in the same day.
Right.
And it's just because she writes songs every day and she happened to write those 2 that day. You know, somebody else, oh, so and so writes songs the way most people breathe. And it's like, that doesn't mean they're any good.
Right.
You know,
that is big true. Tim
Buckley released 9 albums in his life, and he released 9 bad albums. I mean, just garbage music. Like, and I'll say that on the record. If there's any kind of music I can't stand, it's Tim Buckley. I just can't do it. But it's like, you know, but I was like, I wonder if I just start doing it every day, if it'll change. Because there's one thing I don't want, which is to sound the same. I don't want to sound the same more than once. And so really the songwriting process, although it has changed, is my favorite thing. And now it's something I do every day. And it doesn't always mean I write something good every day. So I guess it's still that. There's a new song of mine called Miriam that when I wrote it, I was like, that's going in the, I'm like, that's something. And then I kept it in my head for a couple of weeks. And then the song that you'll actually hear on the next record is like, that's the song. And then conversely, there's a song I wrote that it seemed jokey called Today Jeff Goldblum. And it's Today Jeff Goldblum Looked Me in the Eye. And is the hook. And I was like, well, we'll never hear that again. And then listening back, I'm like, there's something there. So it's like, that's my favorite. And then my least favorite is booking. And my second least favorite is driving. So if I could get rid of things that I do and still do them, it would be in that order. I would get rid of booking and then I would get rid of driving. Awesome. And so I like playing. I also like being at the show. I also like leaving the show.
Yes.
You know, I used to be really into going to towns and like finding, the cool vegan cafe and the cool thrift shop and the cool record shop and always buying stuff and taking it home. And then I've got these piles of stuff that I don't need. And it's like, and then kind of realizing that the vegan cafe it's just founded by rich kids, like, you know, and the record store is just rich kids. And that's not representative of that town. You know what's representative of that town? Walmart. Like, so I go to Walmart and walk around and you can tell everything you need to know about any city by the Walmart there.
Well, the one thing that we need to know right now is the best way for our audience to get in touch with you. How can they bond with you as per your social media? Where you streaming? How can they invest in your Patreon? How can people get in touch with you moving forward? Because the producer is bringing that Apollo curtain hook right now.
Oh, sure. I'm Brook Pridemore on every major social platform. Brook with no E, Pridemore. BrookPridemore.bandcamp.instagram. TikTok. All of my records are available on Spotify and Apple Music. All of my records are on Bandcamp. Patreon is patreon.com/Brook Pridemore. $5 a month. You can hear a song from me every day. Brook Pridemore on everything except on Reddit, I'm the guy from Pearl Jam. And that's where you hear me. I'm online. I just deleted my X, my Twitter, but I've got everything else.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for giving the knowledge through. Thank you for continuing to create great art and music moving forward. Thank you for existing.
Thank you, and thank you guys for having me. And I'll be
Absolutely.
in Clinton next Sunday. Come out.
WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Preston, and Mr. Easy Blues. Thank you, everybody.
Wondering what to write about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just a scout? I don't know.